Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's a great pleasure to have Honorable Gregg Kennard, who represents the 101 district in the Georgia House of Representatives. Thank you very much, Gregg, for sparing some of your precious time.
My pleasure.
He also runs a non-profit organization called Inspired that deals with homelessness, addiction, and domestic violence. We will talk about your non-profit organization in the later part of this interview. So I would like to ask the first question, that what inspired you to pursue a career in politics, or what were those specific experiences that brought you into politics?
Well, it was actually the work of my nonprofit, working with homelessness and poverty, where I saw where public policy and legislation actually impacted those issues. So working with individuals in the program, I saw that where there was a bigger macroscopic structure in place, propped up by policy and laws in the books that actually impacted the folks that I was serving. So after years of working in the nonprofit, about 6 years ago, I decided to run for elected office to work on our state structure as it relates to the work I was doing in my nonprofit.
So it was actually your nonprofit that...
Yeah, you know, it's issues like homelessness, literacy, educational gaps, criminal justice reform, where it was really impacting the men and women in our program. So I wanted to work on changing and amending some of our policies and laws to have better outcomes.
That's right. So tell us something about the process of legislation within the House of Representatives. How does it work, and what exactly you are focusing these days?
Sure. There's 180 members of our House of Representatives in our chamber. Across the hall in the Senate, there's 56. So in the House, we're serving about 60,000 people in our local districts. So our terms are every 2 years. We have to rerun for office every 2 years, and now finishing up my third term. We'll be running for my fourth next November. So each House member is assigned to a committee, and this is really where all the bills start their process. An individual representative will drop a bill. He'll have some accompanying signatures from 4 or 5 other members. It's dropped into the clerk of the House. The bill is read 3 times in 3 consecutive legislative days, and then it's assigned to a committee. The committee is made up of other House members, usually about 25 of us, that may have some experience in that particular domain of the law. So I sit on 4 committees now. Anything related to motor vehicles, I'm on that committee. Labor and industry, small business development, and I also sit on the energy committee. So the speaker makes a determination where the bill would be assigned to which committee, and then that's its first stop. Then the chair of that committee makes a determination if the bill will be heard inside of a committee meeting. So a lot of legislation never gets heard because they're just not interested in moving it forward. But if it does get a hearing, then the chair also decides if it will get a vote. If it's voted in a favorable, simple majority, then it moves on to the next bigger committee, we call it the Rules Committee, and it's about 50 or 60 House members, and it goes through the same process of getting a hearing, getting a vote. If it makes it out of the Rules Committee, then it comes to the House floor for a vote, and the Speaker of the House determines if it will receive a floor vote. If it gets a favorable majority, with 180 members, the magic number is 91. If it gets 91 votes, it's voted out of the House. It goes over to the Senate to start completely over with the committee, Senate floor. If the Senate amends the bill at all, then it has to come back to the House committee to go through the process again on the amended version. If it makes it through all that, then it goes to the governor's desk for signature, where he or she can vote, assign it into law or veto it.
That's right. So as I'm here for a State Department program, exchange program, they call it International Visitor Leadership Program.
Okay.
And the theme for this year's 2023 that program, IULP, was research, innovation, and commercialization for the 21st century. And as you just mentioned that, you are sitting on some committees like that is related to industry and small business development committee as well. So what exactly you guys are doing for the promotion of small businesses, or what kind of policies are being implemented?
Sure. Well, Georgia has done pretty well as it relates to businesses and even small businesses, where we've been the #1 state in the country for 10 years running, having the best state for business. So we have a lot of Fortune 500 companies that call Atlanta and Georgia home. We have a lot of businesses coming to Georgia because there's an attractive business environment. And so this is a very growth-oriented state. But 96% of all of our businesses are classified as small businesses.
Small
So,
businesses.
yeah.
That's right. So one thing that is that was about the legislation. So this American political system, is it open to everybody? Like how challenging it is to enter into it, or?
It depends on what level. The more local, the more easier it is. I decided to run back in 2017, and I just called down. I didn't know anything about it. I just called down to the Capitol and said, "Hey, what does it take to run for a state rep?" So I had no idea. And they said, "Well, you need to pay $300, and it will get your name on the ballot." At the time, there was about 6 people running for this same seat. So we had a primary, which happened in May. I won my primary, and then I went against the other opposing primary winner in the Republican Party, and we went into the general election in November. And so at the local level, it's not nearly as complex. It's actually a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be, but really at this kind of local level with 60,000 people, to me, the biggest determining factor is how well you get your face in front of people and knock on doors. Typically speaking, in all my races, my opponent has outraised me as far as financial. They've always raised more funds than I have, some extremely more, but I've done a good job of just getting to know the folks, connecting with the community, and I've been here a while, so I've been very involved in the community. So when I ran, I had a little bit of name recognition already, because I've been here so long. I'm a native of this area.
That's right.
Yeah.
So being a member of the House of Representatives, so what do you intend to do, or what do you plan to foster a culture of inclusivity and diversity, so that all the communities feel represented and supported, and what sort of policies are there to have such kind of environment?
Sure. Well, I think from individual to individual, depending on their particular worldview, growing up in Gwinnett County, where it's been very diverse for a long time now, my social network, my professional network is very inclusive of different cultures, orientations, languages. So someone living in this area, that's kind of just built into your life. So I find it very easy to move in and out of different kind of people and groups. Someone that's coming from a more rural community in Georgia, where it's more homogenous, usually white, in other rural parts, they're probably it's not gonna be as natural to them. But I would say that overall, Georgia is a growing state, and in the last 10 years, we've grown about 1 million people. We're now 11 million people strong, and most of that growth the last 10 years has come from, it's been minorities and a lot of diversity in that 1 million people that's been added to our overall population.
So before a while we were discussing this issue, and Mr. Rahim Shah, he just mentioned that something about that Muslim Heritage Month or something like that. So, and you played a vital role, he was just mentioning to me. Tell us something about that.
Sure. Well, I'm a Christian pastor, but my church is very ecumenical, and we do some networking with people from other faith traditions. And so it's, even though I'm Christian, I find a lot of intersection with the faith of Islam, have many friends and neighbors who practice Islam. So it's just something I'm very comfortable interacting with and advocating for. And it's just, Georgia has a very strong Muslim population, and in Gwinnett County, we have, I think there's 17 mosques here now. So it's a big part of my district, and so it's very easy for me to elevate that voice and show its importance. That's
right. So, Representative Gregg, as the political models are changing in the world, and the Western democracy, there is a perception that the Western democracy seems to losing its effectiveness. So, what's the future of Western democracy?
I would argue it's the other way. We're seeing our democracy in this country really there's a lot of stress on it right now to see if it will hold up. But I would say it's holding up. Where it's working. The issues that we're going through with elections are making their way through the process, through the different branches of government. And right now there's a lot happening in our judiciary branch as it relates to things that have happened nationally. So we're seeing it play out, and I'm actually heartened that it looks like it's working and accountability is being made and nobody is seen as above the law, and it doesn't matter who you are, there's equal justice under the law. So I'm kind of, like I said, heartened and optimistic that this is going to endure. It's really under a strain right now to see if it will endure, but I like what I'm seeing.
So now let's come towards the non-profit organization. Tell us something about Inspire and how does it work?
Sure. Well, we're working to solve homelessness, to end homelessness, and when you really do a deep dive in Georgia and in this country, what homelessness looks like, it's a very complex, multi-layered issue that has something to do with usually mental health, addiction, lack of education, poverty. And so when you're looking at solving it, there's just not one thing. It's not just getting someone into a house or a home. You have to address the sustainability of that person, which usually involves some job training, education, therapy, counseling, life skills. And so in our program, it's a very immersive process where when someone walks through the door, we're taking them through a lot of resources to help them in all areas get empowered. Everybody goes back to school. Everybody receives job training. All their basic needs are met with housing, clothing, food, and now we're working on healing and empowerment and getting this person back on their feet. The average person stays about a year with us, and in the course of that year, a lot of positive things happen.
And since how long you're running this nonprofit?
Sure. It's actually an outreach of our church. Our church is 24 years old, but we've had this transitional program now for 17 years.
So how do you raise funds for it, and what's the process like? What do you do?
Okay, so we're usually getting a referral. We work with the Department of Corrections, and so there's a lot of folks that are leaving prison or jail. They don't have anywhere to go. We're an opportunity for them to come and just as soon as they're released, come to us to start rehabilitating their life. We get a lot of referrals from mental health facilities, drug treatment facilities, other homeless outreach shelters downtown. They may send people to us. So there's never a shortage. I've got a long waiting list of people trying to get in.
No, I was just like the way you raise funds for it.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
We have basically 4 buckets of income. One is we have a clothing drive. So we're very aggressive in asking the public in the Atlanta metro area for clothes, and we do 4 things with those clothing donations. One is all of our clients get new wardrobes. People in need of the community that need clothes, we help them. And then we also it's a financial revenue stream. What we don't have a direct use for, we sell those clothes in bulk, and it creates a financial income stream, which is right now about $29,000 a month. Because we have thousands of people that donate to us every week.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's one income stream. We also have just financial donations, private donations. Our church collects offerings. And then we get some grants from different foundations that believe in what we're doing. And then we have, there is some client income. When our clients start working, they pay a small program fee to be a part, and it teaches them financial literacy and responsibility.
Oh, that's right.
And it's like a cost share model. So,
that's right. So how do you manage these two responsibilities, like the other one aspect of your political part of life seems to be quite challenging?
It really, it's all this, in my mind, it's all the same work. I'm just doing it in different ways, but I'm still working on improving our neighborhoods, our society, our community, making them better. So it's coming from an approach of policy or the actual program work. But in my mind, it's all the same work. So there's a lot of overlap.
So, and is it like a common practice that how representatives and senators that are involved in nonprofit and these kind of activities, or it's just like some rare cases like you?
Yeah, there's not a lot of nonprofit guys. Most are business owners. Some of them are retired, and there's a lot of different kinds of occupations represented. We have a number of lawyers. We have some doctors. In Georgia, these are part-time citizen positions, so you generally don't quit your day job, and because we're only meeting 40 years out of the year, or 40 days out of the year for a legislative session. So we go the second Monday of January for 40 days. They're not consecutive days, there's some committee meetings in between, but we usually wrap up towards the end of March, and then we're done for the year.
That's right. And as you mentioned that you are also serving on the committee for industry, so I would like to ask that to what extent this, this link between university and academia, industry and academia, the research that is done within academia and universities, and how industry is linked with it. Any insights on that?
Sure. Well, in our program, and even as my role in the House, I see that education is one of those pathways to prosperity and to good paying jobs. So we have some good schools in Georgia. We have a good technical college system, and Gwinnett Technical College here in our backyard is one of the better ones, where they have a 99% job placement rate. You go get a certification or degree at Gwinnett Tech, 99% of the time you're going to find a job waiting on you. So there's a connection between education and income level.
So the last question of this great conversation would be that I was just thinking about that what it takes to be the best representative of the House. What's your take on it?
You've got to be in touch. You've got to be in touch with your folks and your district. And the thing about it is, there's 180 House districts throughout Georgia. What works in my district may not work in another part of Georgia. There are representatives who, in other parts of Georgia, that could not get elected in this one, and I couldn't get elected in theirs. So Georgia is a big sprawling state with a lot of diversity, and you just have to make sure that your district, your voice is being heard, you got your ear to the ground, and you're listening. So all the correspondence I get from my constituents, or phone calls, or if I'm making seeing some of my constituents at the store or at the mall or at the park, I'm always listening to see what's on their mind.
So there is one part, like one component, that engaging with the community. But what about the legislation part? That how effective one can be at legislation and making laws, and what it takes to be effective in that?
Yeah, right now my party, the Democratic Party, is in the minority slightly, so we have a little bit of a disadvantage getting our legislation through. But that said, we still have some influence, and we certainly work to make any legislation that comes to our committees better, and we lend our perspective on it. And a lot of times, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of good bipartisan work that's done. 90% of the time, we're all voting yes together, because it's just good common sense legislation that's good for everybody. There's that 10% that's polarizing, that's controversial, that we fight over, but 90% of the time we're all pushing the green button that we are, we agree with this legislation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gregg, for spending some of your precious time. It was a Nice conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.